What's up, accounting enthusiasts? Welcome to another episode of LiaBenefits Series, a podcast designed for you and your journey towards being an accountant. I am Jana Consigo, together with my partner Angelica May Lopez and Ariana Saria, your host for today. Hold on because we will be discussing Chapter 17, which talks about employee benefits. Are you ready? Because we are. So sit back, relax, and let's learn together. But now, let us discuss the learning objectives. After watching this video discussion, the learners are expected to understand the post-employment benefits, to distinguish a defined contribution and defined benefit plan, to know the recognition of defined contribution plan, to identify the components of defined benefit cost, apply the project unit method in computing projected benefit obligation, and to know the recognition of current service costs, past service costs, and net interest, and lastly is to define the asset and return plan asset. So, moving on, what are employee benefits? Employee benefits are all forms of consideration given by an entity in exchange for service rendered by employees or for the termination of employment. So, base sa meaning na employee benefits are all forms consideration, ibig sabihin, hindi lamang siya about sa pera. Kasama na rin dito halimbawa ang mga travel expenses na ginagamit ng mga employees kapag kinakailangan nila na pumunta sa ibang bansa or ibang lugar for work purposes. Or kahit ang transportation and food allowances can be considered as employee benefits since it is all form of consideration na ibinibigay ng employer or ng entity na natatanggap ng mga employees. And so what are the reasons for giving benefits to the employees? It is indicated that exchange for services rendered and termination of employment are some of the reasons kung bakit binibigyan ng benefits ang mga employees. And there are 4 types of employee benefits, and this includes, first is the post-employment benefits, which are classified as either defined contribution and defined benefit plan na i-discuss natin na mas malawak mamaya lamang. Next is the short-term employee benefits. This means all form of consideration in exchange for service rendered by employees that are payable within 12 months of service being rendered other than termination benefits. Examples include wages, salaries, paid holidays, sick leaves, and bonuses payable within 12 months of service being rendered. Next one is the long or other long-term employee benefits. This means all employee benefits other than short-term employee benefits, post-employment benefits, and termination benefits. And an example of this is the bonuses payable in 12 months or more than after the end of the period which is the employees rendered the related service. So last is the termination of benefits, means the relationship between the employer and employee was brought to an end, but the employer was responsible for the benefit of the employee. Employee benefit provide in the exchange of termination of employment as a result of either termination of employment before the normal retirement date or the employee's decision to accept an offer of benefit in exchange for termination. So termination benefit are a separate category of employment benefits because the event of this gives a rise to the obligation is the termination rather than employee service. So now, we are going to discuss post-employment benefits, which are employees' benefits, other than termination and short-term employee benefits, which are payable after completion of employment. Which means, hindi ka na employee ng isang company pero magbe-benefit ka pa rin or may benefit ka pa rin na matatanggap tulad ng retirement benefits, which includes pension, a lump of payment on retirement, and etc., life insurance, and medical care. Most of the time, post-employment benefit plans are formal arrangement between the employer and the employee, and this means naka-indicate na sa contract of benefit ang mga bagay or kung ano lamang ang makukuha ng employee sa benefit na napagkasunduan. But some employment benefit schemes, on the other hand, are informal as proven solely by the entity's practice of paying post-employment benefits. Ibig sabihin, kung ano lang ang nakasanayan ng entity na pagbibigay ng benefits sa naon ng employees, ganun na lang din ang pagbibigay na gagawin sa mga susunod pang magbe-benefits. So now, we are going to discuss the contributory or non-contributory and funded or non-funded that are included in the post-employment benefits. So first is the contributory plan. The employer and employee makes contribution to the retirement benefit plan but they do not necessarily contribute equal amounts. Both employer and employee share the retirement benefit cost, which means si employee ay may contribution din sa fund ng entity na pwede niyang makuha as benefit. On the other hand, non-contributory plan is only the employer makes contribution to the retirement benefit plan, and when we say non-contributory, the entity or employer itself should shoulder all the retirement benefit cost. So next is the funded plan. It necessitates that the company needs to set aside fund for future retirement benefits by making payments to funding agency or third parties such as trustees, banks, insurance company who are responsible for accumulating funds and paying payments to the retirement employee when benefits becomes due. Na ibig sabihin ay nag-set aside ang isang entity ng fund na ginagamit para sa benefits ng mga employee na bukod sa mismong general fund ng entity para sa iba pang expenses. And to the contrary, the unfunded means an entity retains the obligation for the payment of retirement benefits without the establishment of a separate fund. The term without establishment of separate fund, ibig sabihin, general use of funds lang ang meron ng isang entity, pero kahit na ganoon ay makakatanggap pa rin ng employee ng allotted benefits from the said entity. So now, let us move on to the defined contribution plan. A defined contribution plan is a post-employment benefit plan under which an entity pays fixed contribution into a separate entity known as fund. A contribution could a fixed amount, a percentage of an employer's income, a percentage of employee's earning, or a combination of these factors. Furthermore, the contribution is fixed, but the benefits is not. In addition, the defined contribution plan was treated as expense since it is straightforward. This means, once the defined contribution plan is paid, the employer is no longer obligated under the plan. On the other hand, a defined benefit plan is simply defined as post-employment plan other than defined contribution plan. So, one entity obligation under the defined benefit plan is to provide the agreed-upon benefits to employees. In other words, an employee has the right to specific, definite, or fixed amount of benefit, which is typically direct proportionate to his salary and years of service, which means ang fund mismo ang mag-a-adjust sa benefit ng employee. In addition, the defined benefit plan was treated as investment in accounting since minamanage ng isang entity ang fund na nare-receive ng employee para sa kanyang benefits. So the next topic is the multi-employer plan. A multiple employer plan is benefit provided to employees by two or more unrelated employers. So it is indicated to encourage smaller businesses to share the administrative burden of providing their employees with tax-advantaged retirement savings plan. Our next topic is the post-employment benefit plans under the law. So first is the Social Security System or SSS. This post-employment benefit plans is a defined contribution plan since the entity's obligation is limited to specified contribution to the plan as a percentage of salary. And under RA 7641, this post-employment benefit is a defined benefit plan since the entity's commitment is to give a certain level of benefit for each year of service. So let's move on to the next topic. Accounting for defined contribution plan is straightforward because the obligation of the entity is determined by the amount of contributed for each period. So defined contribution plan does not require any actuarial assumption to calculate the contribution. Thus, no actuarial gain or loss is possible. Furthermore, the commitments are measured on an undiscounted basis unless they are not projected to be fully settled with 12 months of the period or of the end of the reporting period. So now, let us proceed to the accounting procedure. There are three accounting procedures which includes, first, the contribution shall recognize as an expense in the period it is payable. Second is any unpaid contribution at the end of the period shall recognize as an accrued expense. And lastly is any excess contribution shall be recognized as a prepaid expense, but only to the extent that the prepayment will lead to a reduction in the future payments or a cash refund. Accounting for defined benefit plan is a complex because actuarial assumptions are required to measure the obligation and the expense. Also, there is a possibility of actuarial gains and losses. On the contrary, the obligation of the defined benefit plan was measured on a discounted basis and may be unfunded, fully funded, or partly funded by the contribution of the entity. So, moving on to the next topic, we are going to discuss the components of defined benefit cost, or defined benefit plan rather. So, we have the service cost, net interest, and remeasurement, which we can call as SNR. So, what is service cost? Service cost, which is nag-render ka ng service kaya bibigyan ka ng benefits. That compromises the following, which are the current service cost, na ibig sabihin ay nag-render ka ng service ngayon, therefore kailangan ma-record as expense kahit na after retirement mo pa matatanggap ang benefit. Thus, the current service cost is based on the salary of your retirement year. So next is the past service cost, is a change in the present value of defined benefit obligation caused by prior period of employee service. Change in post-employment benefits or other long-term employer benefits result in this cost. So last is the gain or loss in the settlement. It is an experiment adjustment resulting from a difference between the assumption that the entity has used to measure the obligation and the accrual settlement cost. So next is net interest, which comprises, first is the interest expense on defined benefit obligation. So, dito naman pumapasok kung magkano or kung ano ang babayaran ni employer kay employee mula sa fund na naipon throughout the years na nag-render ng service employee. Ito rin ang rason kung paano nako-compute ang current service cost. So, next is the interest income on plan asset. It is calculated by multiplying the fair value of plan asset at the start of the period by discount rate, which is determined by the preference market yields on high-quality corporate bonds at the end of the reporting period. And lastly is the interest expense on the effect of asset ceiling. So the last component was remeasurement, which comprises the following. First is the remeasurement of plan asset. The actuarial gains and losses, income from plan asset excluding the projected interest income, and the effect of any asset ceiling are all factored into remeasurement. Next is a projected benefit obligation or PBO, which is the actuarial measurement of what a company requires presently to cover future pension liability. PBO assumes that the plan will not be terminated in the near future as it is adjusted to reflect expected compensation in the coming years. And lastly is the remeasurement of the effect of asset ceiling. So, as a part of this overall discussion, my partner Angelica May Lopez and Ariana Saria will take on the next topic or the next remaining topic for employee benefits. Thank you for listening and I hope you learned a lot from what I have said previously. Let us now turn the floor over Angelica and Ariana and I hope you will listen to what they have to discuss. They will also assist you in deepening your knowledge and understanding of the following subtopics up to the end. God bless and enjoy listening. Thank you!
Hi everyone, I am Angelica May Lopez and I will be discussing actuarial valuation method to measurement of plan assets. Actuarial valuation method. Projected unit credit method. It is also known as the accrued benefit method and it is used in determining the present value of the defined benefit obligation and the related current service cost and where applicable, past service cost. Ito ay ang pagproproject ng isang actuary upang malaman ang post-employment cost. Ang actuary ay nagko-consider ng maraming factors in order to come up with projected unit credit method. We have here an illustration of projected credit unit method. An employer pays a lump sum to employees when they retire. The lump sum is equal to 5% of their salary in the final year of service for every year of service. The following data pertain to a certain employee. First, the employee is expected to work for 5 years. Second, the salary is expected to rise by 8% per annum. Third, the salary in 2021 is 200,000 per annum. Fourth, the discount rate is 10% per annum. Sa letter A and B, ang actuariat ang nagpa-project. Siya ang nagbibigay ng informations regarding sa post-employment benefits. So, lump sum is an amount of money that is paid at one time. Ang illustration na ito ay defined benefit plan kasi nakafix na ang benefit na matatanggap ng certain employee. Here is the present value of the future benefits. So, step 1, get the future salary by multiplying the 200,000 na salary for 2021 and 1.3605. Yung 1.3605 usually ay given, and you will arrive at 272,100. Step 2. Get the annual service cost by multiplying 272,100 to 5% na given. You will get a result of 13,605. So, ang benefit every year ay 13,605. To get the present value factor for 2021, we will use a formula, which is 1 over I to the nth power. I is the discount rate, which is 1.10 na given, and N kung ilang years. So, to get the present value factor of 2021, 1 over 1.10 to the 4th power equals 0.683. So, bakit siya naging 4? Kasi ang 2021 ay 4 years bago mag-2025. To get the present value factor of 2022, 1 over 1.10 to the 3rd power equals 0.751. And the rest, same process din. Sa present value naman, you just have to multiply the benefit and the present value factor. Projected benefit obligation is the estimated amount of obligation of employer to employee that was made by an actuary. Yung current service cost, yun yung present value sa naunang table. Para sa interest expense naman, sa 2021 ay 0. So, to get the present value for 2021, 9,292 plus 0 is equal to 9,292. Para sa interest expense for 2022, 9,292 na present value sa 2021 times 10% na discount per annum equals 930 interest expense. To get the present value of 2022, 9,292 plus 10,217 plus 930, which will arrive to 20,439. And the rest, same process din. For 2025 naman, 10% times 49,460 equals 4,946. But the interest expense for 2025 is 4,960 to make the total add up to 68,025. Total employee benefit expense. To get the total each year, you just have to add the current service cost and the interest expense. Current service cost. The increase in the present value of the defined benefit obligation resulting from employee service in the current period. It is one of the components of defined benefit obligation. Ito yung pag-render ng service ng isang employee ngayon. Therefore, kailangan mag-record ng related expenses kahit pa in the future pa matatanggap ng employee. Net interest on defined benefit liability or asset. It is the change in the defined benefit obligation, plan assets, and effect of asset ceiling as a result of the passage of time. So, there are three elements of net interest. First, interest income on defined benefit liability. To get this, you have to multiply the defined benefit obligation beginning to discount rate. Second, interest income. To get this, multiply the fair value of plan asset beginning to discount rate. Third, interest expense on effect of asset ceiling. To get the interest expense and effect of asset ceiling, multiply the effect of the asset ceiling beginning to discount rate. So we have here another illustration. At the beginning of the current year, the records showed the following. Fair value of plan assets amounting to 4 million, defined benefit obligation 5 million, discount rate 12%, expected return on plan assets 10%. So, first, we need to get the interest expense on defined benefit obligation. So, to get this, multiply the 12% discount rate to 5 million defined benefit obligation, which you will get a 600,000. To get the interest income on plan asset, 12% discount rate times 4 million fair value of plan assets equals 480,000. To get the net interest income, 600,000 interest expense on defined benefit obligation minus 480,000 interest income on plan assets equals 120,000. Note that the 10% expected return on plan assets is ignored completely. Kasi in intermediate accounting, as much as possible, we record datas that are true. Past service cost. It is the change in the present value of defined benefit obligation for employee service in prior periods resulting from a plan amendment or curtailment. Example nito is yung nagsimula ka magtrabaho sa isang company at the age of 25, pero nagkaroon ka lang ng Postemployment Benefit Plan noong 30 years old ka na. Lahat ng na-render mong service simula noong 25 years old ka ay mababayaran din. So that is what we call past service cost. Plan amendment includes introduction to defined benefit plan or changes to an existing defined benefit plan. Sa introduction, noong una ay wala ka pang benefit plan hanggang sa nagkaroon. While sa changes to an existing benefit plan naman, ay may nauna ng plano at may konting babaguhin sa nasabing benefit plan. Plan curtailment, a significant reduction in the number of employees covered by the defined benefit plan. Ito yung nagbawas ng empleyado na bibigyan ng benefit plan. Curtailment may arise from isolated events such as closing of a plant, pagsarado ng planta, discontinuance of an operations, ito yung hindi na itutuloy yung business, termination or suspension of a plan, yung plan mismo ang na-terminate or na-suspend, and then usually may government intervention na when it comes to this. Illustration. An entity operates a defined benefit plan that provides for a benefit of 5% of final salary for each year of service. The benefits become vested after 5 years of service. On January 1, 2021, the entity improved the benefit to 6% of final salary for each year of service including prior years. At the date of the amendment on January 1, 2021, the present value of the additional benefits increased accordingly. Employees with more than 5 years of service on January 1, 2021, amounting to 300,000, employees with less than 5 years of service on January 1, 2021, and the average period until vesting is 3 years, amounting to 300,000. To get the past service cost, you just have to add 300,000 and 150,000 to get the 450,000. Plan assets comprise assets that are held a long-term benefit fund and qualifying insurance policies. Ito yung mga long-term benefit fund na matatanggap ng employee. The conditions for assets held by a long-term benefit fund are A. The assets are held by an entity, the fund itself, that is legally separated from the reporting entity. Ang asset o pondo na ito ay dapat nakahiwalay sa iba pang gastusin ng entity. B. The assets are available to pay only employee benefits. C. The assets are not available to the reporting entity's own creditors even in bankruptcy. Hindi pwedeng gawing pambayad ang pondong inilaan para sa empleyado bilang pambayad utang kahit ito pa ay bankrupt na. Letter D. The assets cannot be returned to the reporting entity or can be returned to the reporting entity if the remaining assets or the fund are sufficient to meet all employee benefits obligations or the assets returned to the reporting entity to reimburse it for employee benefits already paid. Sinasabi rito na ang pondo na inilaan dito ay hindi dapat pwedeng ibalik sa entity. Ang maibabalik lamang kung ang pondo ay sapat upang matugunan ang lahat ng mga obligasyon sa benepisyo ng empleyado. Qualifying insurance policy. An insurance policy issued by an insurer that is not a related party of the reporting entity. Ang proceeds ng insurance policy ay pwede lamang pambayad sa empleyado para sa benefits at hindi pwedeng gawin ng employer bilang pambayad para sa kanyang mga pinagkakautangan. The proceeds of the policy cannot be paid to the reporting entity except when the proceeds represent surplus assets not needed for the policy to pay employee benefits. Kapag ang proceeds ay sobra at hindi na kailangan bilang pambayad sa employee benefits. When the proceeds are returned to the reporting entity to reimburse it for employee benefits already paid. Measurement of plan assets. It is measured at fair value. So the fair value of an asset, it is the price that would be received to sell an asset in an orderly transaction between market participants. So yung fair value of an asset, ito yung price na napagkasunduan ng buyer at seller.
Now that you already learned and understood what employee benefit is, up until the remeasurement of plan assets, let us now proceed to the return on plan assets. So the return here means income. The return on plan assets has components, and that is first, interest. So may karapatan ng pera na kumita ng interest dahil sa passage of time. Dividend, ito naman yung mga ininvest sa mga stocks and other income derived from the plan assets. The second one is the realized and unrealized gains and losses. The difference between the two is the first one pertains to the fruits of the plan assets, while the latter pertains to the main principal. However, in computing the return on plan assets, mayroon tayong dinededuct. At ayun ang number 1, any cost of managing the plan assets or cost of managing investments. And second is any tax payable by the plan itself or any tax on investment income. The return on plan assets is fully recognized as a remeasurement and accounted for as a component of other comprehensive income. The amount of remeasurement is equal to the actual return on plan assets minus the interest income on the fair value of the plan assets at the beginning of the reporting period. Ang actual return ay ang totoong naging increase or change sa plan asset, and then kino-compare natin yon dahil may sinusolve tayo na remeasurement. Dinededuct natin ito sa interest income. Ang interest income ay ang passage of time, kaya it is natural that the base of the interest income is the beginning amount of the plan asset. So, in addition, ang measurement ng plan asset ay ang fair value at ang time period naman ay ang beginning of the year. Moreover, ang ibig sabihin natin sa remeasurement ay ang may nangyari ng measurement before, and then ire-remeasure na lamang natin ito ulit. Therefore, meron tayong dalawang main thing na kailangan tandaan dito. Ito ay kung ang actual return ay mas mataas sa interest income, the difference is what we call remeasurement gain. And kapag ang actual return naman ay mas mababa sa interest income, the difference is what we call remeasurement loss. So, ang dahilan kung bakit kailangan natin ihiwalay ang interest income sa gain or loss ay dahil sa remeasurement. Ang interest income ay may passage of time, kaya part siya ng profit or loss, while the remeasurement of gain naman ay other factor, and the treatment for this is in the OCI. Magkaiba sila ng presentation, kaya sila ipinaghihiwalay. Let us now have an illustration here. An entity provided the following data for the current year related to a defined benefit plan. Beginning fair value of the plan assets, 5M. Actual return on plan assets during the year, 900K. contribution to the fund 1M, benefits paid 200K, and discount rate of 6%. So to get the remeasurement of gain in plan assets, actual return on plan asset 900,000 less the interest income of 300,000. So we come up to this amount because we multiply the beginning fair value of the plan assets to the discount rate. So 900,000 less 300,000 is 600,000, and that is the remeasurement gain on plan assets. So the remeasurement gain of 600,000 is fully recognized as a component of other comprehensive income. Next is the computation of the fair value of plan assets. So to get the ending fair value of plan assets, contribution to the fund is added to the beginning fair value of plan assets since nag-contribute tayo and madadagdagan ang plan asset. Interest income and remeasurement gain on plan assets are also added. So 5 million plus 300,000 plus 600,000 is equal to 6.9 million. Less the benefits paid since naglabas tayo ng pera, 200,000, is equal to the ending fair value of plan assets, 6.7 million. So another approach for the computation is to combine the interest income and remeasurement gain. So the actual return comprises the interest income of 300,000 and remeasurement gain on plan assets of 600,000. So, same process pa rin yung computation sa kanina, and ang difference lang is yung actual return. Ano nga ba ang mga components ng fair value of plan assets? Ano yung mga ina-add? Ano yung mga dinededuct? Una ay kapag nag-contribute ka sa fund. Therefore, it is an addition to the plan assets. Katulad na lamang nung nasa illustration natin kanina. So, next is interest income. It is also added. So, remeasurement of gain or loss, add if gain, and then deduct naman kapag loss. So, benefits paid upon retirement, since nagbayad ka, it is also a deduction. And lastly is the plan settlement price of plan settlement before retirement. So, since naglabas ka rin ng pera dito, it is also deducted in plan assets. Projected benefit obligation is the actuarial present value of all benefits attributed by the pension benefit formula to employee service rendered before a specified date based on future compensation level or future salary increases. So, ang actuarial present value ay, ang nagko-compute nito ay ang mga actuarian at hindi ang mga CPA. Since we are rendering services every year, kino-convert siya in present value gamit ang pension benefit employee formula. So, ina-apply ito every year, and then the amount is not dependent on his or her salary but rather based on future compensation level or future salary increases. So, ito ay projected and therefore it is estimated. However, if the benefit obligation is based on current salary level, it is known as accumulated benefit obligation. So, the difference between PBO and ABO is that PBO is based on future salary level while the latter or the ABO is based on current salary level. So, ang standard na gamitin for defined benefit obligation ay ang projected benefit obligation or ang tinatawag natin na PBO. Actuarial gains and losses are changes in the present value of the projected benefit obligation resulting from bakit binago? Number 1, dahil sa there is an experience adjustment, and number 2, there is an effects of changes in actuarial assumptions. So, magkakaroon lang ng actuarial gains and losses dahil sa dalawang ito. Ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng dalawang ito? Dahil nga ina-assume or ina-estimate lang ni actuarian ang pwedeng mangyari in the future, and maaari din siyang magkamali, ang tawag doon sa difference between the previous actuarial assumptions and what has actually occurred ay experience adjustments. Nagkakaroon ng experience adjustments dahil magkaiba ang actuarial assumptions sa actual events. Walang nakakapag-project ng exact amount dahil nga ito ay for the future. So, the second one is the effects of changes in the actuarial assumptions. Ang pag-a-assume or pag-project natin ng amount ay matagal pa dahil ito nga ay for the future. Ang aktuarya na ito ay hindi bias at paglipas ng panahon, nagkaroon ng changes sa projection. Ang tawag naman dito ay changes in the actuarial assumptions. So, meaning, ang assumptions ng actuarian ay nagbabago din. Ang pinagkaiba nito sa experience adjustments ay hindi nakaka-apekto rito ang actual event or kung ano mismo ang nangyari. Kundi parang indirect lang ang epekto nito in a sense na si actuarian mismo ang nagkaroon ng pagbabago. Actuarial assumptions comprise of demographic assumptions and financial assumptions. So, ano nga ba ang maaaring i-consider na actuarian para magkaroon ng pagbabago sa kanyang assumptions? So, una na nga rito ay ang demographic assumptions. So, ito ay katulad sa mga nagsisurvey sa atin and ito yung mga information about a specific thing. Yung mga personal background ng mga empleyado at tinitignan rin ito para makuha ang tamang assumptions ng projected benefit obligation. Yung pangalawa naman is yung financial assumption. So kapag sinabing financial, alam naman natin na ito ay pumapatungkol sa pera. Mga interest rate na kinoconsider, economy ng Philippines, market rate, discount rate, inflation rate, at kung ano-ano pa. So, kung nasa ng entity, kinoconsider din ang financial dahil economic resources pa rin naman ang ating pinag-usapan dito. Demographics is the background or the personal information of the employee. So, it deals with the mortality rate of employee turnover, disability, early retirement, proportion of plan members eligible for benefits, and claim rates under medical plans. Habang ang financial naman, it deals with discount rate, future salary and benefits level, future medical costs, and taxes payable by the plan. So, nagkakaroon ng actuarial assumptions dahil maaaring nagkaroon ng changes sa demographic and financial ng isang empleyado. Hindi lamang nagkakaroon ng pagbabago or changes dahil sa difference ng previous actuarial assumption at sa kung ano nga ba ang totoong nangyari. Tama din naman yon, pero kasama pa rin po dito ang changes in actuarial assumption at ayun na nga ang demographic and financial assumption. Next slide is to know the causes of actuarial gains and losses. Actuarial gains and losses result from increases or decreases in the present value of the projected benefit obligation because of changes in actuarial assumptions and experience adjustments. So, usually, ang mga dahilan kung bakit nagkakaroon ng actuarial gains and losses ay dahil sa mga sumusunod. Number 1, unexpected high or low rate of employee turnover, early retirement or mortality and increases in salary. Second is change in assumptions concerning benefit payment options. And lastly naman, number 3, change in discount rate. And yon, hindi naman sinasama sa actuarial gains and losses ang changes sa present value ng projected benefit obligation na nagmumula sa introduction, amendment, curtailment, or settlement ng isang benefit plan. Moreover, such changes result in past service costs or gain and loss on plan settlement. Magkakaroon lamang ng actuarial loss kung ang actual benefit obligation ay mas mataas sa estimated amount. Bakit loss? Dahil ang obligation o ang babayaran ay mas mataas sa estimated amount. Kulang tayo ng in-estimate, therefore magkakaroon ng dagdag na kabayaran. Kaya ito ay kinoconsider na loss. Magkakaroon naman ng actuarial gain kung ang actual benefit obligation ay mas mababa sa estimated amount. So, bakit gain? Dahil ang obligation o ang babayaran ay mas mababa sa estimate amount. Sobra tayo ng in-estimate, therefore bababa ang ating dapat na bayaran. Kaya ito ay kinoconsider na gain. So, let us now have an illustration again on how to get the actuarial loss. So, we have an actual projected benefit obligation of 6 million less the estimated projected benefit obligation of 5 million. We will come up to the actuarial loss of 1 million. So, kung mas mataas ang actual obligation kaysa sa estimated amount, the difference is an actuarial loss dahil nga may increase sa projected benefit obligation. Ngayon naman, magkaroon tayo ng illustration on how to get the actuarial gain. So, we have an actual projected benefit obligation of 8 million less the estimated projected benefit obligation of 9.5 million. So, magkakaroon tayo ng actual gain of 1.5 million. So, kung mas mababa ang actual obligation kaysa sa estimated amount, the difference is an actuarial gain dahil nga may decrease sa projected benefit obligation. So, to conclude, sa OCI na part ng equity mapupunta ang actuarial gain and losses at hindi ito mapupunta sa profit or loss later on. Dahil nga meron tayong rule na kapag naging part ng equity, hindi na ito pwede pang lumabas kahit kailan. I-recycle na lamang ito. So, later on, ililipat na lang ito sa retained earnings. That is all for today. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe so you will be notified when a new episode is posted. Rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for listening. And we hope that you are able to catch up new lessons that will help you on your accounting journey. Get that CPA title because we believe in you.